Good evening, everyone, and welcome to RFL round number 16. Which brings us to the Mexican Grand Prix. So, while we wait for the first drivers to come out, obviously, last week out in the sprint, sprint from last week, obviously with Tom Gorian, who started on pole position from Vapid from Shot Metal. Obviously didn't quite work it for a few of those drivers, but in the end, after the sprint was all said and done, it was Vapid in the Williams who took victory from Scott in the Haas. Shot Metal complete the podium with Angelissimo in 4th, Viper Shoot in 5th on his debut. Not bad job from the McLaren driver. Followed by Checo and Tom Gorian. Obviously Tom Gorian with a few mistakes here and there for the Alpine driver, and then it was So Fresh who was the final finisher with, I believe it was Button, Bins, JDM and Normal Jinx, the non-finishers, with Jinx not even making it to turn number 1. So as we now have cars leaving the pit lane, we'll get an idea on who those drivers actually are. I believe that car is actually going to be Scott, who's currently going round. The championship standings after round number 15. It is Vapid who leads from Scott. I should say a little bit of a points gap between those two after Vapid obviously winning and Scott coming in second with Angelo in third. A good healthy gap between himself and Tom Gorian, who has seen some up and down results in the last few weeks, has had the pace but has not quite always had the consistency to go along with it. Obviously we know Para is no longer in the league, so it is Kirby who was not entirely the most confident of going into all of this. And also Ansmas is no longer in the league, then it is Checo has a chance to overtake the former McLaren driver, and then we have Sora here this week as well, obviously another man who has our driver has been on and off in terms of performances this season. Adam Lee, obviously we know is left. Cal, we know is now in the comp trucks. Me, who is not here this week. Shot Metal, up a fair few positions, has made quite an impression on the standings as we see Scott come round to start on the first lap of the session. It's then Scrub, obviously we know is left. Pred, who we've not seen all this season, and then a fair few other names in those standings. So, and then looking at the constructors, it is Williams who lead the standings. Alpine are in second on 165.5 points, ahead of Haas, who are going to be represented by just the one driver of Scott for this week. Aston Martin are in 4th on 131.5 points, with Alfa Romeo in 5th. Obviously with Shot Metal making a massive difference for those guys. It is P6 for Red Bull, P7 for Mercedes. Obviously I believe only we have 2 drivers in this week. It is XCR Senna and TMS Sora. Ferrari are in 8th on 101.5 points, Alpha Tauri are 9th, and McLaren are in 10th and last with 90 points. So, into the action for this week. I believe Scott has invalidated, so we'll have to find a car who is also currently on track. I believe Angelissimo is on an outlap, so we will find, I believe, Shot Metal is on an outlap as well, so I believe Tom Gorian is the first one actually on a lap. No, he's currently in the pits. I believe it's probably Scott is currently on a lap. Sirsen has also invalidated, so it's not going to be him who's going to be first to set a lap. It's going to be TMS Sora who is going to be first across the line in the Mercedes. Obviously a track that is very easy to invalidate on, so you do need to be careful of respecting the track limits, as a few of the drivers are already finding out, having scrolled through and seen a few drivers have already fell foul of the track limits, which have been catching a few drivers out so far. Obviously we know from real life Mexico is a very high altitude circuit, so different engines are suited to this track to where they normally would be, as Sora, I believe. I don't know if he's going for a second lap, but we will have to see. I believe XR Senna has invalidated and will have to go for a second lap. Normal Jinx also invalidated on his first lap on the medium compound tyres, choosing to use those for his initial first few laps, or reconnaissance laps of the track. We have another Mercedes, I believe that is Sora just behind him, and I believe the next car to cross line is going to be potentially So Fresh. Obviously we've seen how he's been getting on as of recently. I believe, no, that's not So Fresh, that looks like it could be Shot Metal's a bit further on. I'm trying to work out exactly where people actually are. I believe Tom Gorian is on and out. we're going to go back to Scott. I believe Scott invalidated on his first lap, so we're going to go back to the Haas driver and see how he gets on coming around into the stadium section. Obviously where the fireworks will go off for the winner at the end of the race. Is Scott coming around to complete a lap? Can he beat Sora's 1 minute 15.9? No, he is not at the moment. I believe this is not the best of laps from Scott. A 117.4. I do expect to see improvements. Angelo pops himself into P3 at P4, and Strut Medal P2 117.032 pops himself into second. 4/10 quicker than Scott at this current moment in time. XR Senna is about to come around the final few corners in the Mercedes. Let's see how he gets on. Nice camera angle. We're going to go into this camera angle so that you can actually see what's going on. Love when Cody's decided to give camera angles that just don't work. As it's going to be a 1 minute 20.4 for XR Senna. Pops himself into P4 for the moment. Let's see how Spen currently on the McLaren, obviously. He is in the McLaren, I believe, he is a reserve in that car for this week. As we have Tom Gorian, obviously has been the pace setter, has been up there very much with the pace setting in the last few weeks, but has not been able to fully turn that pace into race winning results. Hopefully this week he can break his voodoo curse and actually, if he wins in the sprint, actually win the race. Oh, a bit of a moment there. Was purple in sector 2, probably has lost some time with the rear end wiggle from the Alpine driver right there, coming around the final sequence of corners, around the final corner, taking the shortest line to the run. It's going to be a 116.9, so that did cost him a little bit of time. He should be able to find some time on that, so the next car across the line is probably going to be Senna's currently on a slight improvement on a lap there. I'm not entirely sure on that one. It looks like Spen is going to come around across the finish line. As Scott is into the pits, what can Spen do? A little bit of moment on the final corner, the McLaren driver to the line. It is P4, very close in that midfield, apart from Tom Gorin all the way down to around Spen. P2 to P4 is separated by not that much in terms of overall lap time. Senna, I believe, did not improve on his lap. I believe he spun on that. So we are going to go and do a full lap on board with Kirby in the Alpine, as he's now limbering up to the American to start his lap, masquerading as a Dane today, obviously, with the result that came of the sprint. We will not go into that just in case you haven't seen the results of the sprint race itself. Kirby will limber up to start on a flying lap. He was complaining about too high a wings. Hopefully he has solved those issues as he goes down towards one of the longest straights in Formula 1. As the DRS gets opened, 190 miles an hour, approaching 200, going to go just over that mark as we head down towards turn number 1. 205 miles an hour, 206 as he touches the brakes into turn 1. A little bit of car in front, I believe that is So Fresh, who is in the way, does indeed get out of the way. Very good work there from the Royal driver to get out of the way. DRS wide open for the next one. This is the 2 places, so there's 2 of 3 DRS places we will have on this track, which will see drivers probably use a lot of their ERS deployment. A little bit wide, misses the first apex, however clips the second. You do want to clip a little bit this apex, but you do want to get the apex there, otherwise you will understeer wide into that sequence on the left hand side. Now into the next little sequence of corners, which you do need to get right. If you ruin one of these corners, it ruins all of the corners. Got to be careful the curbs don't try and suck you off there as well. Coming towards 3, does lift a little bit coming through that particular corner. Let's see what it's going to be. A little bit of a moment in the straight there. 57.7 middle sector for the Alpine drivers. We now head into the stadium section for a completion of this Mexico City circuit. Heading through into the final 2 corners, where obviously we saw Valtteri Bottas lose it in qualifying very badly. I believe when he was still at Mercedes a few seasons ago. It's going to be a 117.3, pops himself in P5. Good lap there from the Alpine driver. Back to Normal Jinx, who I believe is just coming to finish. He's invalidated once again, so he's having a little bit of trouble with the track limits once again, is Normal Jinx in the McLaren. I believe he has got to go yet again, so he's probably not getting the best out of those tyres. So Fresh, who we just saw getting out of the way just a few minutes ago, is now on a lap himself. It was either that or it was his teammate of Vapid Cook. Could have been Vapid Cook getting out of the way himself there, as it looks like the furthest car on is going to be Scott, I believe, but he is on an outlap. Could be Tom Gorin, no, he's in the pits. So we're going to go and see if it is indeed Vapid. No, Vapid is in the first sector still, so it's not him. So Fresh running a little bit wide, there's a head through. You've got to be careful with that particular corner that you don't have any issues with the corner cutting, as it's very easy to do that with these particular cars. So Fresh in the middle sector at the moment. Obviously has been lacking a little bit in terms of bringing in points to the team, but has been many reasons for the second Williams driver not being able to bring the points, and that is a big moment for So Fresh. That is why the curbs can catch you out, and that is the end of the session for So Fresh. So that's not going to be the best of jobs from him. His Williams teammate would have just seen that and thought, oh well, that's unfortunate there for his teammate. As Vapid now will come round to complete a lap. I believe Shut Medal, who's just going to be somewhere just in front, I believe is going to set a lap as well. So we're going to go on board with Shut Medal. He has improved on 117.0, so we're going to go back to Vapid. He's about to come round himself and complete a lap. 116.8 goes quicker than Tom Gorian, as Tom Gorian has retired from the session as well. He's retired on the straight, I believe. Something has happened there to Tom Gorian. I have no idea what has happened to the Alpine driver. That is a very awkward place and a very weird place to lose it. Is invalidating his lap and probably will back off to get himself a new set, a fresh set of soft compound tyres. That's unfortunate. I don't know how that happened there for the Alpine driver. That's very much going to be a cork in the bottle for him, as Sora now is on a lap. Let's see what Sora can do with about 7 minutes left in the session. Sora, I believe, is indeed on a flyer. The DRS wide open for the Mercedes driver, the leading Mercedes driver, heading in towards turn number 1. Turn number 2, you got to be careful not to invalidate on these corners. There are so many corners in this track you do need to be careful of not invalidating on, due to the nature of the track being the way it is. As we have the Mercedes driver still purple in sector number 1, heading towards now sector 2. As I say, Mexico is a track where you do need some downforce. However, you need a lot of straight line speed to go along with it, and knowing how to find the balance is going to be very crucial. And there is Sora, not exactly finding the balance, but a good 360 pirouette to keep going, but it has completely ruined his lap. So Sora will now back off and probably go for yet another lap there, as we will go and see if we can find Spen, who's about to come around and complete his lap, but I think he is backed off. Yep, indeed he has. He's invalidated in what I think is the final corner. I don't know if that's invalidated his next lap as well, so it's going to be unfortunate if it has done so. 116.7, I believe Shut Medal has just gone quicker again, so Shut Medal in the Alfa Romeo has gone again into P2, has just jumped Vapid, who's not yet come back out for his next run as of yet. I believe Spen is going around again, but has invalidated on his lap, so we'll have to come back to him, as Senna is on an out lap here himself, and I see Checo is now on a lap, so we'll go on to the Aston Martin driver, the only Aston Martin driver here this week, as we are heading down towards turn number 1 with the Mexican driver. So the Mexican driver going to have the extra support of the fans this weekend to bowl him along, even and help him try and get himself up the order. Obviously we've seen the highest position we've seen from Checo this season is P4, so maybe the fans here, the Mexican fans, can help him, propel him maybe onto the podium potentially if he gets enough luck to maybe go his way, and help him actually get where he wants to go, as we do know that Checo has had moments being very quick around this season, but just has not been able to put it into a full race performance. So it's all about just putting it together, and especially on a track like this where I believe that it's very important just to make sure that you get a good consistency and flow through the corners, because it's a very different type of track in terms of it's a lot of downforce orientated corners. However, the straights are massive in between them, so it's all about finding the compromise in the wing setup that is very important. Obviously, I believe your suspension may also help a little bit here, as Checo goes P9, so the good lap there from him. So we see Senna now on a lap himself, coming around to complete a lap here. He's down on this middle sector time, so can the Mercedes driver find time on his lap and see what he can do? A little bit of a wobble there from the Mercedes driver. Also, we know that he is still fairly young at the moment and still learning through his first full season of league racing, so let's just see what he can do. Obviously not quite using the full line of the track, is down in his time marginally by half a second, so time to find for the young Mercedes driver there, as Normal Jinx now coming through to complete his, will be his first lap. He's at 56.6, so maybe he might finally be able to get to register a lap on the board. Will the McLaren driver, because we know that he's been struggling a little bit to get a lap on the board, and he is just invalidated coming out the final corner, so he's once again going to have to go again unless he decides to dive for the pit lane, of which he has indeed done so. And Sven has also decided to bail for the pit lane, so now we're going to go to Angelismo, who will have some clean track, who will be a little bit out with everyone else. Obviously, track acclimatization, not acclimatization. Track evolution will be a massive thing as we now head into these final 3 minutes and 20 seconds of this session. We know that the track evolution is going to get much better as they go through, but it's going to be important to see who, as I say, to get across the line and get the best lap time you can get on the board. Obviously, we don't know what the actual weather is going to be like for the actual race itself, and knowing that the conditions potentially could be interesting as we head through into the actual streams itself. The race itself and the sprint. So obviously we've seen that the weather sometimes in the races this season in RFL, if we've had mixed conditions races, have been interesting enough to actually have different weather conditions. And obviously the wet to dry, I believe, has happened quite quickly. We have been cycling back to the likes of Paul Ricard. Paul Ricard was a wet to dry race, and it went from that pretty quick. So really all about seeing what the weather's actually going to be like here. Obviously we know it can potentially rain obviously when this race is taking place, but it is blue skies at the moment, and it looks like there's a little bit of weaving going on down the straight for Angelissimo. Probably not quite got the temp in those tyres that he really requires, so probably not going to be the ideal lap here for Angelo. So we'll come back to him and see how he gets on. I believe Scott is also on a lap just behind him, or about to start on a lap. I believe Shut Medal still in the pits at the moment, Vapid on an out lap now. Shut Medal just come out of pit lane, and it's going to be interesting to see. Obviously you want DRS on this, if you're using DRS on this track you will want to be within half a second to make the move 100% safely. Scott into turn 1, taking a line that I don't think I've seen anyone else take this. Oh, and there's too much grip turn in there for the Haas driver. He's going to have to go again, so that's unfortunate for him. Let's see how, I believe Angelo was down by 2.5 seconds, so it's not going to be an improvement for him. It's Kirby is just starting the lap as well. So everyone now coming out for lap times as we now come towards the end of the session, as XCR Senna, I believe, has had an incident in the middle sector. That's unfortunate there for the young Mercedes driver. Who was looking to maybe improve a little bit on the pace than the pace at the time he had actually set on the 118s. He'd managed to get up to the 118s. I'm not sure though on that front. That's fairly close though for Senna, so maybe he's found some big improvements on that front. It looks like Kirby is currently still going around on his lap in the middle sector, so what can the American driver do? Nope, it's going to be an invalidation there for Kirby, so he's maybe going to have to go again. Spen looking like there's been a little bit of an incident to himself and Scott, so I don't know what's happened right there. They're both quite slow as they're coming out of that corner. Looks like Scott was trying to get himself warmed up, and it looks like that Sven wasn't really having any of it, and maybe he wants a little bit of slipstream here from the McLaren driver. McLaren driver probably won't want to give him too much of that. However, I believe that Vapid Q is going to be coming around to complete. Nope, that's not Vapid. That would be potentially not Kirby. Kirby's going to have to go around again. Looks like it is going to be Normal Jinx. Is he finally going to get a lap on the board? Because that's very much going to be crucial if he is going to actually be able to do it. Because he's really struggled to get a lap on the board. He's invalidated on this final corner a few times now. Normal Jinx, he has finally got a lap in, but nope. He's still spun. So Normal Jinx will be starting from last, so that's a big loss for the McLaren driver there. That's unfortunate there for him. I believe that Vapid has just gone P2. Yes, he has. Where can Shut Medal put himself? He's 4,000th of a second up on his time. Where can the actual... Whoa! Big moment coming out in the final corner for Shut Medal, so no improvement there for him. It's going to be Spen who's going to be next across the line, just behind. What can Spen do across the line? It's going to be a 1:16.3, nearly 7.5 tenth improvement from Spen. Puts himself P2, so good lap there from him. What can Kirby do? He's down on his lap time and he has invalidated, so Checo has lost his front wing. So I believe that will be it for qualifying. Checo comes into the pits. I believe Kirby probably will also just back off of lap unless he is deciding to go again, but I believe he is done as well. So that is your order for the 5-lap sprint race. So, it is TMS Sora in pole position from Spen, who will be alongside him on the front row. Vapakut P3 with Shut Middle P4. From going after his crash P5 with Angelis Mo in P6, P7 and P8. It is Turby and Scott with Checo and Senna in 9th and 10th. And then obviously So Fresh and Normal Drinks will be So Fresh crash probably. He even set a time, and Normal Drinks did indeed not manage to set a time without invalidating on his laps. As we now head into the action for the 5-lap sprint race, what will the weather have in store for us? It's going to be interesting to see if it's going to be an all-dry weekend. It looks like it's still dry. There's a few more clouds around than what there was in qualifying, but it is still dry. So, as we wait for all the drivers to finalise any small driver changes that can be allowed on the cars before we start on the main race, which will be probably underway sometime in the next few minutes. So if you want to grab any refreshments, any popcorn, anything to go along this with us, because we expect to see some very good action along the way, so stay tuned for potentially that. Obviously we know 3 DRS zones is definitely going to make this an interesting race, due to the nature of, if you can't brake 1 second from the car behind you, you're going to have a bad time, because the cars behind can use ERS and DRS to keep close to the cars in front, and I believe we're going to see even more of that here, as you can do 3 wide into 3 wide at in the main straight as is. It is wide enough. However, we have seen that there has been some action on the starts. I believe Normal Jinx fell foul of last time around. That he was the one that crashed in the start finish line. He was crashed out before the start finish line straight in Japan at Suzuka last weekend. So very much looking to see if he will actually make it past that, which I believe will be an improvement for the McLaren driver. But it's him and Spen in that McLaren team this week, and obviously we know Spen is a very quick driver. We know that it's going to be interesting to see how it goes for those two. Obviously we know that Tom Glory and Alpine will not be impressed with the crash obviously he had on the main straight. Will be looking for redemption in this 5-lap sprint. Obviously we've seen that he can work his magic in the Alpine to try and get himself that pole position, that coveted pole position. However, on a track like this, pole position is not your most ideal place you want to be starting on. You really want to be starting a little bit further back. Probably 2nd to 4th is probably more preferred, because first place you're likely, if you get bogged down, you're more likely you're going to lose a fair few positions on the start. So any bad starts are amplified in a track like this with a straight as long as the one here at the Mexico City circuit. It's very much going to be a case in point of drivers making sure that the starts are perfect, otherwise they could find themselves a few positions down on where they start before they even get to turn 1, and accidents can happen down in towards that turn 1 and turn 2 sequence of corners, which is very much going to be interesting to see how it all goes down on that front. As the countdown timer is now on for the 5-lapper sprint race that will decide the main feature race grid. Obviously, as per usual, it is 3 points for first, 2 points for second, 1 point for first. As we know by now, we will get into the action fairly quickly. No formation lap, cold tyre is going to make it definitely interesting on the race start. So it's going to be interesting to see who does well and who does not, and see how much the slipstream on this main straight affects the start, as the lights will be on. 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights, and they are out for the start of the Grand Prix, as it is a good start. It looks like it's been a good start for Spen, as they're looking to go 4 wide in towards turn 1. Sora has not kept hold of the lead. It's going to be Vapid that takes the lead from the Grand Prix. He's got Angela Simone on his right hand side, Vapid on the left. Looks like Spen trying to go round at the outside. Looks like we had an issue further back. I think that is Tom Gorian who's been spun to the back of the field, so he's had contact early on. We're going to go side by side with Spen and Angelo as he goes side by side as Spen comes out on top, but Angelo comes out on top, but Spen's trying to come back. Scott and Kirby going side by side as well, just a little bit further back, side by side. He gets the job done, but it looks like Normal Jinx with a great start from P12 on the grid. It's up to P7, look challenging for P6 on the back of Kirby. Going to try and go round to the outside. The Alpine driver does leave more than enough space. Normal Jinx uses a little bit of battery, does get the move done, and into P number 6. Looks like Sora now trying to make a move on Vapid. Vapid struggling a little bit for pace, and looks like Sora's got better grip coming out of the corners. It goes side by side and towards the last sector. Vapid closes the door on the Mercedes driver. Mercedes driver tries to go round the outside. Looks at Angelo and Spen are trying to go side by side just behind in the stadium section. As Spen going to try and cut back underneath the Ferrari driver. No, he's not going to be able to do that on this occasion. It looks like Shot Metal has been shuffled down a few positions as well. It's not been a good start for him. DRS now being used. Scott using a fair bit of the battery himself. No, he is not. He's opting to keep hold of it. Spen and Angelo. Spen using a little bit more of the battery to try and get himself closer to the Ferrari just in front. Is he going to be able to do anything? Is Scott just in the background, just watching brief as we have Kirby in the back as well, looking at, I believe it's Normal Jinx who's struggling a little bit for pace. He's got P6, but it looks like he's struggling a little bit, but has got himself back into the DRS range. Angelo has dropped out just for a second, is hovering about the range where he really needs to be. It looks like So Fresh further back as well has got pressure from, I believe he's trying to pressure Shot Metal, but he's not been able to do it as we go back to Spen versus Scott. Scott round the outside. Good move there from the Haas driver. Does run a little bit wide though. Is Spen going to try and have another go at him? No, he's not. He's got his teammate now just behind him. Let's see as it looks like Kirby's trying to get himself past once again. The second McLaren driver trying to play the team game here for the leading driver of Spen, and trying to keep the Alpine driver behind. However, we're going to have to go back to the front battle as well. So, okay, Checo and So Fresh have gone side by side. Late move there from Checo as he goes down the inside of So Fresh. So Fresh holds on at P10 for the moment. Looks like Tom Gorian is in 11th with Senna and P12. As it looks like now we're going to go back to CMS Sora as he's going to now use a little bit of battery. However, DRS is going to be enabled come, I believe, the next straight. Yes, there is the DRS enabled sign, so here we go. Sora wanting to get himself as close as possible to the back of Vapid. See how close, see if he can get past within the next few corners. Obviously 3 DRS zones on this track. Makes it very difficult to pull away once a car is very deep within that DRS zone. Obviously it will probably be within the next zone into the next lap, as it looks like Spen as well. Looks like he wants to try and come back at Scott. He's not going to be close enough. It looks like Kirby is just sitting on the back of this queue of cars at the moment. Looks like So Fresh has been passed by Tom Gorian. Very easy move there for the second Alpine driver trying to make his way back through the field. Going back to the front of the field at the moment though, and we're going to see, however, though Kirby got quite close to the back of Normal Jinx, who's really struggling to keep himself within that second zone, maybe struggling a little bit for pace as the McLaren driver, the second McLaren driver. At this moment in time, Kirby looks like he's very quick. There goes, I think that is the end of the, though he's managed to keep his car going. I think So Fresh has retired as well in the same sequence of corners, so they've retired about the same time, so that's unfortunate there. Spen looking like he tries to try and make a move. However, we're going to go back to Sora. Sora wants to get himself as close as possible. DRS will be enabled this lap for the Mercedes drivers. Vapid is going to probably have to go defensive. As with Normal Jinx, we see him leave the lobby once again. He's had this issue, he's had yet another issue there as the McLaren driver. Will hopefully be back for the main sprint races. Here comes Sora down the straight, not even using DRS. So hopefully, I think this is what Vapid wants to do, is they go side by side into turn number 1. Vapid is going to have the inside line for the next corner. Sora around the outside. Good move there from Sora. Can Vapid come back at him with the next lot? I believe he's not got DRS though. Here comes Vapid. Not much deployment to use for the Williams driver around the outside. He sends it Daniel Ricciardo style around the outside into the next corner. A little bit wide there from Sora, but Sora does have to move done and dusted for him. And it looks like Angelo at the back of this queue as well is watching brief at the back of this queue as well. Looks like Sora's maybe got a little bit more pace now to try and pull himself away from the squabbling potential pair of Vapid and Angelo. As a 6/10 of gap is the gap already. It looks like he is dropping Vapid by a little bit of that. As Shot Middle is the first one to pick up a 2-second time penalty. Obviously in this sprint is looking like Spen. In the meanwhile, and try and get as close as possible. Obviously probably isn't going to make a move anywhere near here, as Shot Middle is immediately as well trying to make a move on the back of Kirby. In between, I believe, 2 Alpines now, so Kirby doing a favour for his teammate to try and catch up and try and get past Shot Metal. What can he do as they head through? I believe Vapid though is going to be struggling here now though. Angelo with the DRS, not much ERS deployment though to work with for the Ferrari driver. Tom Gordon with the fastest lap in the Alpine, 117.5. As here we go, Angelo trying to make the move. There's going to be no ERS between the two of these guys right here. Angelo trying to go around the outside, however, unlike Sora, was not close enough. Tries to go for the cutback move on that, and it's a beautifully engineered cutback there from Angelo. He's going to have to go around the outside if he wants to make this move work. Vapid is still going to have the inside line for the next corner, though it's going to be around the outside. Angelo's going to have inside line for next corner, however Vapid is going to try and come back. However, he gets cut off a little bit there. However, that's now meant that Scott has been compromised a little bit, but has not had to worry about it. Scott, in the meanwhile, has a lot more deployment around them than what the drivers do. As it looks like Angelo, this is now costing them time here. As it looks like Spen thought about a move into the S's there, however, was not going to be close enough to the back of that car. As it looks like Shot Middle still is trying to get past this. It looks like Spen is trying to use a little bit of battery to get himself past, however, it's not going to work. Not much deployment there for Spen. Looks at Vapid. It looks like we've had the 5-lapper race. It's pretty much done. Sora is going to win this Grand Prix. It's going to be the sprint race pole position for the main race for Sora. Very easy drive in the end for him. Angelo is going to hold on to the second place from Vapid. It's going to be Scott just off the podium with Spen just less than a 10th behind. So it looks like Tom Gorin has had contact with Shot Medal. What's happened there? Shot Medal, I believe it is out. Is he out of the Grand Prix? No, he's not. I don't know what's happened there between Tom Gorin and Shot Medal. So it might have to be reviewed afterwards exactly what happened there with those two. As Angelo wins, or gets driver of the day for the sprint race. Obviously, Normal Jinx probably would have got that, however, had the incident there. But it is going to be TMS Sora who has pole position, the best seat in the house, or the worst seat in the house, depends on which way you look at it for this track. It is going to be Angelo in P2, who just fought off Vapid for P3, who takes the final point in the sprint race. So, a very action-filled Grand Prix for the sprint race. So more of that, please, to follow. Sora sprays the champagne there on the drivers around him there, as we will now head ourselves into the main feature race. So, Sora is on pole position. He will have Angelo in the Ferrari alongside him. It is Vapid and Scott who will share second row, with Spen and Kirby P5, P6 on the third row. Tom Gordon and Shot Middle 7th and 8th, with Checo in 9th, the home favourite for its P9, finish P9. With Senna in P10, it is going to be Normal Jinx in 11th, obviously 1 lap down on the leaders. And I believe So Fresh as well. Obviously with that DNF is a little unfortunate there for the Williams driver, not picking up any points. Obviously very difficult in this sprint races to actually pick up points. These 5-lap races can be very manic and a lot can happen. Shot Middle with the only one with a penalty in the end does manage to keep hold of these P8, but I don't know what happened to himself and Tom Goen. Obviously those two did not have a good start in the start of the race. I think they may have had a bit of an issue with bog down with traction. This can happen on this game. So we will now head into the feature race and see how things all unfold. We're now waiting for the drivers to rejoin the lobby once again. The lobby will be reset, the grid will be custom set from where the positions were finished, and we will see how the drivers get away from everything as it looks like. I believe we will now be down to 10 drivers due to the nature. I think we lost it, I saw someone from the lobby there as well. So 10 drivers will be taking part in this next session. 9 drivers, I don't know what's happening there. I believe there's a new lobby being set up. I don't know what's going on there on that front. Just to deal with this. that answers my question. Yep, we will be starting a brand new lobby, so I'm going to see about getting that into there. Obviously, sorry for the silencer, we're just checking with some of the admins in the broadcasters chat to see exactly what was going on that front. Let's go and get ourselves into that other lobby just for time being. We're just waiting for everyone to repopulate back into the lobby once again. From the previous session, obviously, must have been some issues with the lobby from the host or from the drivers. So we're just gonna it'll just be a few minutes for the race to be underway. 36 laps of this Mexico City circuit. Going to be interesting to see how the drivers tackle this much longer race distance. Obviously, we've seen how easy corner cutting can actually be on a track like this. We've seen obviously that Shut Middle obviously picking up a penalty in the sprint race, showing that if you push a lot, and it does happen, as I say, if you're a racing driver, you will notice that that does actually happen. If you're a racing driver, you don't really tend to think about it sometimes when the actual track is actually like that. And it's going to be interesting to see how the drivers, as I say, approach everything going ahead for the time being. I believe we have just about everybody. I'll see if I can get normal drinks back into the session again from earlier on. Nope. He has disappeared on to Pro Clubs, so he will not be probably playing in this game again. So yeah. On that front. So we will have 11 drivers, not 12, for the next race. So. Everyone is indeed in the lobby. Yep, we've managed to get everyone back in, and Finn's replay. Oh, we lose Jinx, but we get Finn's back. So the New Zealand driver does take his place and will be starting from the back as I read. Where Spen probably would have been starting. Well, read about where Spen would have been starting in P12 with Soulfresh, even though he crashed, promoted up to P11. We just wait for everyone to indeed ready up. So, while we are waiting for the drivers to ready up, obviously we can have a quick old gander, a few real life stats from the Grand Prix, obviously real life Grand Prix. Obviously let's have a quick old look. That was. So obviously looking real life sort of thing. So 36 laps obviously to 71 laps for what would be a full race distance around this particular track. So one lap around this track is just 4.3 kilometers or 2.7 miles around the track. Obviously most wins around the track is Max Verstappen with 4 wins. 23 Grand Prix around this, obviously with I believe some changes that have indeed been made to the track over the years. Obviously we've seen there was a bit of a gap between obviously when it was taken off of the calendar, I believe earlier on in 70s or 80s I believe it was, and then brought back for the, I believe it was about 2015-16 or 2016-17, I might be wrong on when that was actually brought back. Someone can correct me in the chat if I was indeed wrong. So the Autodromo Jimenez Rodriguez. So obviously ran quite a few races in terms of how many races overall that we've actually seen from this actual race. And I believe, yeah, it's quite 2015. So yes, I was indeed correct. So this modern iteration has been around since 2015. It's probably seen quite a lot of different winners, obviously 2015 to 2019. And obviously 2020 we didn't race in Mexico, obviously due to COVID obviously being a thing that was indeed happening, I believe. And so obviously I believe I think the drivers have already raced around this track. I may well be wrong in that one. I believe I'm not entirely sure on that one. I believe it's the others later on in the season for the real life season on that one. So with that little bit of sideways distraction, or side-on distraction, depending on which way you want to put it, we are ready to go for the next session. We will have 36 laps of racing action from here, from the Oman Hard Route, the Auto Hermanos route, yeah, Mexican Grand Prix. I don't know why I'm struggling to say that. As the drivers are readying up, obviously strategy a lot more involved on a track like this. I believe the main drivers will probably go for a one stop around this track. It's going to be a medium to hard, like most tracks it is, or a hard medium, one of the two, depending on if it's dry. And obviously for the main race, we will obviously see if main race. Interesting. It looks like it is going to be a whole, unless there is weather that will intervene during the race, it looks like it's going to be an all dry weekend. So no weather conditions to worry about for the drivers coming up. But obviously, going back to strategy, the medium to hard or hard medium is probably going to be the most logical strategy if there is no safety cars. However, in trial of this, even though the track is fairly wide, safety cars still can come out. It's a track where you can see them, unlike certain other tracks, aka Monaco, which just doesn't come out at all in this game because of, I believe it's a glitched system on that for the safety car, and that it means that it doesn't do that. But if drivers want to be a little bit different, you may well see a few drivers potentially using the soft compound tires, potentially start on, or maybe doing a two-stop to try and get themselves through the pack. Obviously, we know there's only going to be 11, 12 drivers, so they don't have to work their way through too much traffic. And obviously, we know that overtaking is going to be a fairly easy job, knowing the fact that 3 DRS zones in the track, obviously the start-finish straight is going to be a major one for the drivers. Then obviously you've got the next one after, I believe, turn 3, turn 3. And then the one just after the S's, I believe, also, which is not likely. I believe drivers will refrain for the most part for overtaking through there, because if you overtake there, then it gives the drivers behind the chance to overtake you on the much bigger straight, which is the main straight. But if you, one thing that you will notice about this particular race and a characteristic is ERS usage. ERS usage, obviously, with the amount of straights on this track, is just going to be very difficult to harvest ERS back. So once your ERS is gone, it's pretty much gone. There's no chance you're getting it back if you're involved in a heavy amount of battling with drivers around you, which you may see drivers sit behind for a few laps in the race itself and actually see about waiting to making moves and actually making sure that they can time it well, because obviously you don't want to make a move on the second DRS straight and then be caught out because the driver behind, much like Abu Dhabi I believe, which has which only has obviously the 2 zones, but has 2 separate detection zones, obviously the bit here leading onto the straight, but just before the straight, and I believe just after the kink of the left and then the right. So obviously we'll be interested to see how the drivers approach it and the mindset that the drivers take going into it, because it's going to be very, very interesting to see how the drivers do approach, or what approach the drivers take going into it, to see if they want to go gun-ho and try and get themselves out of the DRS zone and try and use a little bit more, expend a little bit more ERS deployment to see how far out the DRS zone they can actually get, obviously, in that aspect and manner. But it's going to be interesting to see how all of this goes down. It'll be interesting to see if anyone decides also to undercut or overcut on a track like this as well. Because as much as you can overtake in some places, there are certain corners that are just not overtaking zones at all. I mean, the corner heading into the S's, I mean, that is pretty much a one-line corner if you want to get a good exit there, because if you take the inside line for there, you do end up your car go a little bit wider than what it would be during the understeer, but wanting to wash a little bit wider. And obviously, if you want side by side through there, you do need to have a lot of trust and faith. A driver going side by side with you there, that there's going to be enough space left between the two of you, and knowing about the fact of making sure of leaving space between two drivers. But it will be interesting to see, and I wouldn't be surprised at some points if we see 3 wide action between the drivers here tonight, due to the nature of the DRS being so potent around here. And obviously ERS, when you mix that in together, it means that for your car following, is if you can save a little bit of ERS deployment, just sit behind, use the DRS and use that to your advantage, then you're going to be golden, because you're going to have a lot more ERS than someone who's having to push to get away. Or you might see drivers also at the same time deciding not to actually use their ERS and let someone overtake, and just use the DRS trains to their advantage. If it's just, say, a 2-car battle, any more than that, I don't think they'd want to do that. But obviously trying to put yourself back in behind the car behind, but you got to be careful also if you sit too close to the dirty air, which can wash away a lot of your tire grip and your front aero, which is going to make turning a little bit more difficult. And obviously knowing the fact that you have to compromise on your wings around here is going to be one of the things the drivers would have probably looked at before we went into this, and seeing, okay, where can I find time without losing time in the corners, because the corners are not sort of flowing sort of long left or long right. They're actually quite, some of them are quite technical in terms of how they work. Obviously, particularly the ones in the middle sector. The middle sector is your main sort of very technical section, bookmarked by two sort of the sector 1 and sector 3, which are very much more orientated for the cars that will have had more straight line speed. So you may well see people with more straight line speed and make use of their advantage in sector 1 and sector 3. However, you're going to see people with a bit more grip or a bit more wings probably use their wings to keep themselves ahead in sector number 2. So it's going to be interesting to see how the drivers have gone about their actual setup choices and how it all works out. As we now the chat, as well, I've been talking there, the timer is on. We're about to get underway for the main feature race, 36 laps of this circuit here in Mexico. It's going to be very interesting to see how it all plays out. We are off and underway for the formation lap. So, your tire choices. So, as you see, yeah. So, top 4 are on the mediums. It is Sora on the mediums, with Angelo alongside him also on the mediums, with Vapid and Scott also on the mediums. Sven opting for the hard compound tire, so he's going to have to get plenty of tire heat. Sorry about that. Tire heat into those tires, because it's going to be crucial for him to get a decent start. But however, he will have less pain later on in the race if he can make that strategy work. And it was Kirby and Tom both on the mediums, so it's going to be interesting to see how Alpine play that, obviously with undercuts. Shut Medal, that's an out of the ballpark sort of thing there. Soft compound tires. He's going to be going off those tires quite early, potentially onto the mediums or the hards. Potentially a 2-stop there for the Alfa Romeo driver. We have seen how quick he has been, so it'll be interesting to see how it all goes. And then obviously we see Checo all the way down to Esfar Fins in P12 are all on the hard compound tires. So it'll be interesting to see how that all gets approached as the drivers all start, as Sora has now started slowing the pack down as we now head back towards the grid as the tyres get a little bit of weave. Not trying to weave too much to put too much wear on those tyres, however, to get enough weaving to get those tyres gripped up and ready for 36 laps of action to come. As Sora comes around the final corner, he is eager to get going. He's got a little bit of a gap there to Angelo, which may well bring his tyre temperatures down, and is beginning to slow down as Sora takes his place on the front row. Alongside is a little bit of rear wiggling there as the drivers get a little bit of rear traction sorted out, as there goes Sora lining his car up on the grid. Good lineup there from the Mercedes driver. Looks like, I believe, Angelo's a little bit slower to make his way towards the grid, taking his time a little bit, maybe trying to play mind games with the Mercedes driver, as Vapid has added further back in his grid box because of the fact that he didn't quite line up properly, and Showa has shut Medal. So the action will be underway now as the lights do come on. 5 red lights, And it is lights out and away we go. Not a good start from Angelo there. Look at, I think Scott has got a very good start there. He's got himself up to P2, going side by side with Angelo, using a little bit of ERS as he's going to go try and go side by side with Sora. Sora's going to try and crowd him out down towards turn at number 1. He's going to be on the inside the next corner. However, Angelo is still going to be there, as it looks like it's a little bit contact between Spen and Angelo. Obviously these two were in action earlier on in the race, as it looks like Spen has got a decent start and he's got those tyres up to temperature. Checo and Fins, I believe there's Shot Meadows got past Kirby. Obviously we know those two are going to be, Shot Meadows going to be very quick on the initial launch, on the initial few laps. However, those tyres are going to fall off, as it looks like Kirby and Fins, it looks like Fins and the New Zealand driver trying to get past Kirby there. It looks like that will help out potentially Alfa Romeo this week. Alfa Romeo, Aston Martin this week, in terms of getting a good haul of points. Looks like there's a little bit of a moment there for the American in the Alpine. He's had a little bit of a moment there, as it looks like Spen, I believe, has spun. I don't know what's happened to him, but he's regained ground. But I think those tyres maybe not being full at temperature has not fully helped him there. It looks like gaps at the front have kind of got about the same. Tom Gorin up to P5, good potentially. After the disappointment of the sprint race, it's a good start there from the Alpine driver, looking to make further ground. Vapinkut once again is indeed looking at the back of Angelo, and obviously after the sprint race, he will want to be past that Ferrari driver. As it looks like Checo is, I got past, I believe Spen has got damage. So that's unfortunate there for Spen in the McLaren. Not the best of days there for that driver there. Onto the medium tyres he goes. So that's going to be, unless he needs a safety car now to save his race. And that's the only thing that's probably going to save it. Shot Metal not making use of those tyres quite yet. He's still stuck down in P6 at the moment. That's Tom Gorian, who has once again lost traction. He's down to what is now P11. Very unfortunate there for the Alpine driver. Not for the first time that the rear end traction on his car has really just not wanting to work with him, as Vapid immediately at the same time is indeed having a go there, as it looks like XCR Senna is trying to have a go at So Fresh. Looks like XCR Senna, so he's not managed to make anything stick there, as it looks like Vapid is indeed trying to now have another go at Angelissimo, and he's really just putting pressure on the back of that Ferrari. However, we know that Vapid was struggling a little bit for pace. However, obviously having a massive lead in the championship is going to help him out quite a bit here. It means that there's less pressure on the Williams driver, and obviously we know that Angelissimo is going for third in the championship, and it's going to be very crucial for him. Obviously we've seen the gaps have spread out quite a bit, as Scott is now then 2.6 seconds down from Sora. It's probably going to have to use a little bit of battery there to try and get himself as close as possible. DRS will probably be enabled next time around for these drivers. It looks like Senna's still keeping himself. Nope, he's just dropped out of a second on the back there. It looks like Fins, and then meanwhile as well, is trying to get himself as close as possible. However, he's not been able to get close enough as of quite yet to the back of Kirby. Kirby kind of holding his ground still, as Shot Metal as well, still a little bit further up his holding position as well. Just sitting looking at this battle between Vapid and Angelo, just trying to see when he can pick his time to make a move in the Alfa Romeo. Obviously we know that he should be setting the sector times alight at this moment in time on the soft compound tyres. It's a very big gamble there. It looks like we have a yellow as Spen has retired. I believe that is pit lane associated, so we will probably not see a safety car from that, realising his race was done. So he has crashed, I believe. He's either crashed, I think he's crashed on pit lane entry, but there is no safety car for that. So we will carry on where we were. Looks like meanwhile as well, Shot Metal obviously with Vapid, there's a little bit of a wide moment there. It's exactly what I mean right there. It's when you get in a certain range outside of where you can make the moves. It's very much DRS. Dirty air is a huge issue. DRS is probably going to come up now. There we go. DRS is open for the Williams driver. Let's see, Shot Metal's too far back from that. It looks like, however, we've got actually, this is overspeed here as well, which you got to think about. I wonder if Vapid's going to go for it down the inside. He thought about it, not been able to do it. It looks like Kirby and Fins going side by side. Looks like Fins has got the move done on Kirby, and Kirby down to P7, Fins up to P6, and now making his way up to the battle. Looks like Vapid and Angelissimo going side by side. As looks like Checo has spun in the background. I believe he's had an incident there as Vapid goes round the outside. A few of those drivers finding the outside move to be their favourite in terms of making the move stick, as there goes Spen from the lobby. That's very unfortunate there for the McLaren driver, as I believe that's Sora. Sora is round. So Sora's had an incident. That's going to cost him a whole lot of time. So the pole sitter from the sprint race and the actual qualifying has bottled it. That's an unfortunate thing for the Mercedes driver there. He's now going to have to pick himself up once again and make it stick, as it looks like Shot Metal now. He's picked up his pace and he's trying to get past the Ferrari driver now. He knows he needs to make those tyres work. Lap 4, those tyres are going to stop falling off fairly soon for the Alfa Romeo driver. Going to be very curious to know if he can actually do it. Shot Metal trying and using the ERS. However, he doesn't have much deployment. Angelo does have a little bit more than him just ahead. Sora, however, Scoree got past Fins, obviously knowing that Sora now, he didn't drop too far back, but it does now mean that Scott now leads the Grand Prix in the Haas, so it's good news for him. One man's loss is another man's gain, if you want to put it that way. As it looks like Shot Metal, he's made a mistake. I don't know what's happened there. I think he's lost the back end, or those tyres are starting to go on that Alfa Romeo, and that's going to give Sora a chance to have a go at him. I wonder if Sora is going to make very easy work of the back there, as it looks like Tom Gorian and Sofresh going side by side. It looks like Sofresh has been passed once again by Tom Gorian, who's once again making his way up. It looks like Sora. Look at that. I think there's already a struggle for Shot Metal. Look at the grip difference in Sora and Metal there. As here we go down towards the Sora. Sora is looking at the back of that and obviously seeing that ERS light is flashing. Sora and a lot of ERS can make his way back through. Vapid looks like he's trying to close up to the back of Scott. Obviously though, Sora is very much going to have something to say on that, and he does want his lead back. As Sora now trying to go for the move potentially towards turn number 1. ERS deployed. DRS will be deployed fairly soon just to get himself a little bit closer. And here we go, the overspeed. Shot Metal isn't really even going to fight this, I don't think. Nope, it's going to be an easy move for that, as it looks like Shot Metal, these tyres are really going to be starting to feel the actual pain. He'll probably be in round about lap 9, lap number 10. Look at the understeer there. Fins now is going to have a go at himself. I'm going to go back to that action at the front, or for second place rather, as it looks like the gap has got bigger again. So Vapid's made a little bit of a mistake, or lost a little bit of time, or Scott's had a really good lap that last lap around and has responded to Vapid bringing the gap down, as the gap's now down as about 2 seconds again. Obviously this could be with ERS saving potentially as well, as it looks like Angelo is still trying to keep himself as close as possible. However, it looks like Sora is now closing up to the back of Angelo once again, as Sora, after that little bit of an incident, is immediately almost back on the tail of that Ferrari. So it's Ferrari versus Mercedes, who will come out on top as we go through the final sector. 3-way DRS train right here. Shot Metal really struggling in the background. He's fell out of DRS range. He's still just about holding on, but he's going to be really struggling soon, as it looks like there's a little bit of lag there I think from Angelo. As we have, I believe Sora is going to make the move here on the Ferrari driver here, losing a little bit of deployment. I believe that the Ferrari doesn't have much deployment really to use himself. As we head down the straight, the camera angle looking down towards turn 1. Sora is going to be down the inside as we head down towards turn number 1. Is he going to try and go for the double? No, he only himself. So a little bit of contact there between Sora and Angelo. No damage done, I don't think, for either car, and it's back into third place for Sora. Looks like, however, it's going to be problems for Shot Metal as well. He's really in trouble here. He's trying to hold on here. However, Finn's going for the inside line. It's a risky move. That means you're going to be in trouble for that corner. Senna picks up the first time penalty of the race. Really struggling for Shot Metal now. He's got another 2 laps to do. I mean, he might be going for a 2-stop in this race, so it's going to be very crucial to see how Shot Metal does indeed get on. However, he's going to be in a lot of traffic as we head into that sequence of corners. Shot Metal is not done yet though. However, the dirt air is not helping there at all. Look at how much he's struggling to turn in. He's downshifting through there, and Fins is gone. He's disappeared. Fins in the Aston Martin finally might be able to get a decent race here. So it looks like Sora is looking to repeat a little bit further up for second place now, as now Scott is going to be looking at thinking, Vapid, do your best impression of holding him up, because that is literally all he can hope for. However, with the DRS being so powerful around here, there's not much really that's going to be able to be done about this, as Vapid is probably most likely going to lose the position here unless he decides to defend it. You can probably see Scott just in front as well, as Shot Metal's into the pit lane, probably for a set of medium compound tyres or for the hards, but it's going to be a long way on the hard compound tyres there for Shot Metal. On the soft compound tyres it is medium, so it's going to be a 2-stop strategy for the Alfa Romeo driver. And meanwhile, Sora has popped himself back into P2, and it looks like the battle between Angelo and Vapid is going to be re-resumed with these two both in the same level, the same age old tires. Looks like So Fresh and Senna. Senna looks like he's left just enough space. Senna trying to come back around the outside. Is he going to be able to get anything done there? No, he's not. Looks like Checo in the meanwhile, having had that incident earlier on, can Checo now come back and see if he can get close to the back of Senna? Looks like Senna a little bit out of shape as he come through into the end of the first sector. Can Checo make the move on the Mercedes driver? Obviously both Mercedes powered cars. Checo struggling a little bit there with turning ability. Obviously maybe those tires not quite fully working with the Aston Martin driver quite yet. Obviously not the most ideal of starts from Checo. He's fell a fair bit back, obviously knowing the fact that he's a long way back after that spin. I believe there was some contact between the Mexican driver and someone else as they headed through. There's a little bit of wideness there. Looks like XCR Senna, a little bit of a moment there as he headed across. I think he may well have cut the corner yet again there as he head through into the corner there, as Senna, as So Fresh is a little bit wide as we head through into this next sequence of corners. Senna looking to make the move. Not sure, they'll will wait for the next DRS zone. So Fresh looks like he's got more battery to actually deploy. Can he use the battery now to keep himself ahead? Looking at the rear point of view, however, we've got Checo using the battery as well, potentially. How little of it he actually does have left after 9 laps. Obviously we know that Checo does like to use the battery. Checo down the inside, can he make it stick on XCR Senna? Yes he can. Can Senna go for the cutback? Nope, he can't. And that is move done. Now can Checo go for the move here on the back of So Fresh? It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. However, we're going to go back to the front. Scott is struggling now. Sora is on fire in terms of pace. He's really just laying this in. This really could look like he's laying the glove down now here, as he's just getting he's just warning the Haas driver that he is in the mirrors and he is prepared to make the move. As we're now going to go through into this next sequence of corners. Looks like there's a few gaps there. Is Shut Middle, I believe that Shut Middle getting past Senna as well, as it looks like here comes CMS Sora. Can Scott use his battery to good advantage here? Looking at, you will see how close this Mercedes behind does get. Does Scott do defensive at all? He's going to move across very slightly. However, Sora going to go for it. You're going to see that Mercedes appear to the right hand side in just a second as he go down towards turn number 1. Side by side into turn 2. Sora around the outside once again. Scott does leave him the space. And Sora is back into the lead after spinning a few laps ago. Good job there from the Mercedes driver, and now he looks to try and pull away. However, Scott, if he can stay within range, can maybe take advantage of the DRS heading into the next zone and try and see if he can repass the Mercedes driver. However, it doesn't look like Scott has the same pace as Sora. Sora looks like he is on fire around this particular track. He is ahead, well ahead of everyone, it looks like, in terms of pace. He's made up for his mistake earlier on of spinning. It was like Shut Middle. And So Fresh, looks like So Fresh has once again been done by that, as it looks like we have Checo in the background, the Mexican driver, being buoyed on by his fans, trying to get past So Fresh. Obviously the American versus the Mexican. How is this all going to play out, as it looks like? However, Scott has already, he's hanging on just to DRS. However, it's not going to last long, I don't think, for the Haas driver. Once Sora really gets in his groove, however, Vapid is just staying in within range. Obviously that battle would have obviously helped a little bit, as Checo looking to try and get closer to the back of So Fresh. Can he make the move? Senna just sitting watching brief in the background there as well. Can he make anything happen either? It'll be very interesting to see how that does indeed all go. It looks like Senna might be a little bit closer to Checo once Checo is to the back there of So Fresh. However, the battery's probably going to get used a little bit here. So Fresh is going to be in trouble here, using the battery to try and see if he can get a little bit closer. Checo just burying whatever battery he has to try and get past. He's going to get past in the straight. It's going to be an easy move down the inside for Checo. The Mexican driver earlier on the brakes, trying to stop the undercut there from the Williams driver. However, the Williams driver, that's not a good exit from Checo. Let's see what can happen here. Senna going side by side. It's going to be side by side. So Fresh is going to get done round the inside again. However, he's going to go round the outside, but he's too wide, and that's 2 penalties for Senna. It's 6 seconds now. That's going to cost him come the end of the Grand Prix. So Fresh struggling now to keep himself up. It looks like he's going to be under pressure there. So it looks like we have a yellow somewhere. I believe that is going to be Shot Metal, who's had an incident, and that's now brought him into this battle. What has happened there, Shot Metal? Is that just a spin, or has he got damage on that car? We'll have to see as we head through. It's now put him in this battle here with these guys here. SFR Fins, meanwhile, is looking very quick. A little bit further up, obviously started at the back of the grids. P12 for the New Zealand driver is looking very quick. Meanwhile, as Scott is... Sora's not pulling away nearly as much as I thought he probably would. Scott is just hanging on. He's just outside of a second. However, SFR Fins is going to be looking to make the move pretty soon on the back of the Ferrari driver Angelissimo, who obviously, as we were speaking to Angelo earlier on before the race, was saying he was struggling for a little bit of pace around this particular track. So I think this result here would be probably quite good for him at the moment. Shot Metal and Checo as well going side by side. It looks like Shot Metal has got the move redone on Checo, but this is not ideal for Shot Metal. Obviously on that two-stop strategy, that's not going to help him out at all. As we go back to SFR Fins, let's see what he can do in the stadium section. We are coming up to the DRS once again, as you're going to see once again from the usage of the battery, just how powerful the slipstream is around here. Finn's probably going to be using the battery to get himself as close to ball. 0.3 of a second is coming down very quickly, as we're going to come to about 0.2 of a second. He's not going to get close enough though. Angelo just using enough of the battery. Fins tries to make his check of his attempt penalty. Tom Gorian in the pits on lap number 13, the first of the medium runners into the pit lane. Onto the hard compound tyres as per thought. And now it looks like there's a little bit of lag off of Angelissimo's car, so I'm not entirely sure what's going on there. Fins once again from the inside. Angelo has not covered the inside. Fins up the inside, however there's going to be a little bit of contact between the two drivers. Looks like Angelo is going to have another go around the inside there as we head in the next sequence of corners, but he's not going to be close enough to potentially make any moves there. As I think there's a little bit of lag going on with Angelo's car. I'm not entirely sure what is going on here, but there's a little bit of jitteriness from the Ferrari driver's end. Either that or I can't tell if it's from me. One of the two, I'm not entirely sure. However, a little bit further back as well, So Fresh and Checo, these are still close. It looks like Senna's just dropped out of a second. However, these two battling is going to help. The American and the Mexican still continue to battle. Still continue to battle out to figure out who's currently going to be P8 at the moment. Obviously these two, fair bit back. Shot Metal is now 18 seconds behind Kirby, obviously with clean air. Oh, that is a big moment there for So Fresh. You need to be careful there of not resetting the track so you avoid that 15-second penalty. Just make sure you get yourself going. He's managed to do that. I do think he has damage though, so that's very unfortunate there for So Fresh. Out of the points once again for So Fresh at the moment, I believe. That's very unfortunate there for him, as it looks like once again as we go back to the front after having seen that mistake there from So Fresh. On the hard compound tyres, he's probably going to pit early for a set of mediums and maybe another set of mediums following that. Angelo, meanwhile, is still trying to keep himself up with Fins, who is looking quicker on those tyres at the moment. 13 laps on them. We've seen that Vapid is coming to the pits as well. So Vapid from what I believe was P3 or P4, where these two are now, is pit and has come back out in P6. 12 seconds or so behind the interval of the next car, which I believe is Kirby. He's currently down at the moment on the leaders by about 26 seconds. At the moment, Sora is continuing to pull the gap out to Scott. 2.5 seconds, nearly 2.6 seconds. So Sora's got that gap back up to where he was before he spun. So very much now looking at the fact that Sora is just pulling away. He's pulling time and time on Scott. Scott's struggling to keep tabs with him. He really needs a little bit of pace injection. Maybe the hard tyres may well suit him, or an undercut may well work for Scott. Who knows? Now these guys in third and fourth are deciding to pit. So it's going to be curious to see, is Kirby going to come into the pits as well? Or is he going to go longer? No, he's decided to carry Tom Gorian down in P10. Obviously, we know he's pit. He will be going to then the Grand Prix. Senna, meanwhile, is looking at Checo down that straight there. However, he's not been able to make the move stick. Senna looks like he is very much still keeping himself in tabs just about with the actual drivers. However, Tom Gorian is going to try and make the move here now on the Mercedes driver, and he's going to make it as clean as a whistle. And down the inside, his next target is going to be Checo. Obviously, he needs to get through these drivers as quickly as possible. However, Checo will be no slouch. and needs to try and keep, and will probably try and keep himself ahead as much as possible. Can Checo try and keep himself ahead? Is he going to defend the inside line? No, he's not. He's actually going to leave the inside wide open. However, he's later on the brakes than the Alpine. Oh, that is very close. Just enough space is left between those two. Then at the moment is still keeping himself in tabs just behind. Scott's into the pit lane. He's went for the undercut. So that's 15 laps on those tyres. Obviously those hard tyres will be in better condition than where they will be later on. Fins meanwhile still has Angelo's one just for company. However, it's going to be interesting as there goes Kirby into the pits as well. Hard compound tyres for as there is no wing change there. As let's see where Tom Gorian's going to be. He's coming around the final corner. Has the undercut worked on his teammate? It's going to be very curious to see if this actually does work for him on Kirby. Kirby's just coming out the pit lane now. What is it going to be? It's going to be just ahead. Is it going to be ahead of Checo though? Checo is looking to make the move. He's going to be just in front of Checo. In terms of that, obviously we know that Checo and all that have lost a lot of time from earlier on, but now the two Alpines are now in 7th and 8th. Obviously 3 laps are Colmorian on those tyres. Now Kirby has to get those tyres heated up and up to temperature. Angelo meanwhile has just dropped out of range, and I believe Sofresh has pit for what will have to be a set of medium compound tyres, but that's going to be a very long stretch to take those medium compound tyres to the end. Lap number 16 of 36. We are just over. It looks like Fins has spun. That's a mistake there from Fins. I think he's got caught out by the curb, or he's had a moment with Angelo. I'm not entirely sure what's happened. We were not on board with the Aston Martin driver when it happened, as he looks like he needs to get those tyres cooled down again. I think he has damage. So there's damage for Fins. That's probably wrecked his strategy as well. So Sora into the pit lane. Let's see where Scott is at the moment. Scott's coming around the final corner. I believe the Mercedes is coming round and out of the pit lane now. I think he's still behind, so there's a lot of gap there still between himself, as it looks like 4.2 seconds. He's going to drop a little bit of that gap. However, Scott is going to be on 1 lap younger tyres, and will have those tyres up to temperature, whereas Sora will not. So it's going to be very, very important now for Scott and the Haas to try and see what he can do on those tyres, and see if he can gain ground on Sora, and see if maybe he can force Sora into mistakes. Like Fins and Senna have gone side by side. Looks like Fins just coming back out the pits on the medium compound tyres. That's going to be a very big ask for those tyres to be taken to the end of the Grand Prix, and it's going to be very interesting to see what the state of those tyres is going to be like at the end of the Grand Prix. Meanwhile, Shot Meadow on that 2-stop has come out just behind Angelo. Obviously it's important for Shot Meadow. Shot Meadow is indeed going to be having to stop again, obviously on the 2-stop strategy, with the soft tyres not being the most durable at the start. Obviously he lost a lot of time with that spin as well, which probably didn't help his strategy. Also being in traffic near the beginning of this. Shot Meadow is going to be looking to make the move here. I wonder if Angelo will just let this happen, because it's going to be very important there. As he's, yep, indeed, Angelo is just going to let this happen. Angelo now will just be able to do that as Kirby now picks up a time penalty. What is there? Senna with another one. That's 9 seconds now for Senna. That's a little bit of an issue there. Obviously Senna finding the track limits a little bit difficult today, and not knowing exactly where's best not to cut. However, Angelo, can he now indeed make the move? Is Shot Meadow going to go defensive? He's partly going to the inside. See if the Ferrari behind, obviously Ferrari powered Alfa Romeo versus Ferrari power round the outside for Angelissimo. Clean round the outside. That was the one thing that Shot Meadow was probably not wanting, and that's the exact point I was trying to make at the beginning of the stream, or near the middle of the stream, was that you really need to not overtake on there as Fins. That's a time penalty there. That's fortunate. He's trying to leave space for his teammate Checo. Checo on 17 lap old tyres. That probably wasn't the most helpful of decisions for Fins. That's a 3-second time penalty. He can potentially get removed if he feels disgruntled by that decision of that penalty. However, Shot Meadow still is now trying to repass again. However, I wonder if those tyres are going to start to go off pretty soon, because he went into that pit very, very early. 7 lap 8 I believe for Shot Meadow. He's probably going to be coming in the next few laps or so for a new set of tyres. Really at the moment, the closest battle that is kind of at the moment is it looks like Fins is now catching up to the back of Kirby as well. Just as I mentioned, that is Meadow's probably not going to be in quite yet, as it looks like Angelo's going to hold on now at the moment. If he can keep himself away, he's in that range where he can give the Alfa Romeo driver dirty air, and Shot Meadow won't be able to do much about it. Kirby trying to break the slipstream a little bit further back as well. However, we're going to go back to Shot Metal. No, he's not going to be able to do anything there, as it looks like that is going to be Finn's there making the move around the outside. Not really much fight there from Kirby. I imagine that Kirby, obviously on those tires, knows that those tires in that car are going to die much sooner than what his hard compound tires are. It's going to be very crucial now to see exactly how they get on in the coming laps on the coming laps on those tires as SFR Finns. Shot Metal, meanwhile, also is still trying to have a go at the back of Angelissimo, and really he needs to get a good gap, because if he does it, he's sitting in dirty air now, and this is not really helping the Alfa Romeo driver's case as such at all. Let's just say that much. And he really needs to get close. Obviously, he made that mistake of passing Angelissimo. Angelissimo realised exactly what was going on, and he immediately just let him go, because it really wasn't worth it for him to actually do that. As we see him trying to get a little bit closer, still a little bit glitchiness from the Ferrari car just in front. I'm not entirely sure if that's what was going on there. Probably a little bit off-putting if that's actually what Shot Metal can actually see as well. Look, the car is moving from side to side of the track, obviously not actually what Angelissimo is probably doing. Vince meanwhile sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix in the Aston Martin as he looks to get a little bit closer. Is that nope, that's just lag there from, oh, that is really off-putting now for Shot Metal. Obviously he's just seen a car go off wide, and now Angelo is having some severe connection issues here. I wonder if we might see that Ferrari car at some point dip out soon. Shot Metal, really, if this was me, I'd probably be screaming at whoever this was to actually get out of the way, because obviously your connection's not the most stable. Knowing me, if that was actually the case, I'd be concerned about potentially lopping off your front wing. Obviously lag can play a huge part in it, but Angelo is having some severe connection issues here in the Ferrari. Shot Metal is keeping his distance, and I understand why he's keeping his distance, because a laggy car could easily take someone out and quite easily end your race. Shot Metal meanwhile is still trying to get himself past, however he's not going to be able to really do anything at the moment. Oh, that was a little scary line back moment there for Shot Metal, still trying to get past. However, I know why he's being cautious now. He really needs Angelo to peel off into the pits, which isn't gonna happen, because obviously Shot Metal is gonna have to pit once again. And really seeing that Ferrari car just sort of glitch his way down the straights. Just as he gets closer, it just happens a lot. Oh, he's probably not actually gone off track there. No, he has not. He was thinking he's making moves, and then the car just appears back in front of him. Angelo, you might have to go and leave and rejoin, reset your connection, I think, because it has got worse as we go through. It's Kirby, that's another time penalty for him, 6 seconds now. Believe, as it looks like XCR Senna meanwhile is trying to get himself past. We're going to get off this one for a little bit, because yeah, that can be a little bit off-putting. XCR Senna looks like he's got some great drive coming off that corner, but Checo's going to use his ERS to try and get himself away. As it looks like that is Finn's who is spun. He's had an incident coming out of the S's. I wonder if he's had contact with Kirby, as Tom Gorian's now picked up a time penalty, so it's only the top 4 who currently don't have time penalties of Angelo. A very laggy Angelo at that. Whoa, that's a big moment there on the curb for Finns. However, well saved. A nice 360 pirouette. You don't get points for still, unfortunately, there. As Finns, that's not going to have done anything for his tyres. Let's be 100% honest on that. I wonder if he's got damage once again. I wonder if he's going to be done, because he's had a lot of issues there, and he's still in the points at the moment, but I believe that may well be the end of it. We'll have to see. Yep, he is indeed done. Shot Metal, meanwhile, is trying to get past this. SFR Finns has indeed left the session, so that is him done and dusted. Shot Metal thought he had the move done, and that Ferrari driver is currently being... I don't even know how to describe this anymore, because this genuinely is this is off-putting for anyone. This is genuinely off-putting for anyone who's trying to race, and just seeing this in front of you, you think, oh, I'm fine, I can overtake this driver. Nope, he's appeared back in front of me again. This is the thing with the game, is that dedicated servers would solve a problem like this, because there must be something going on with the Italians' connection there in the Ferrari ahead for that to be an issue. Hopefully it resolves itself soon, as we only have 10 drivers left in this Grand Prix. Obviously So Fresh away at the back of the field at the moment. I wonder if Shut Metal now really wants this job done and dusted to see if he can actually get himself away. I wonder if finally it's sorted itself out. Has Angelo finally got himself sorted out? I think he has finally got himself sorted. There's not really any jittering going on from the Ferrari anymore. So obviously Shut Metal, those few laps probably haven't really helped him out all that much. But Shut Metal still desperately trying to get past. Nope, it has not sorted itself. That is not Angelo running wide. Oh my word. There's ghosting now going on. What is going on there? I believe that Angelo has just been put wide there. I can't actually tell what's going on here. Angelo, his car is all over the place. As you can see, this is some kind of netcode issue here for the Ferrari driver. Obviously not ideal for the Ferrari driver. It's just kind of something that's happening at the moment. It looks like, meanwhile, we're going to go off this for the moment, and we're going to go back to Sora. Because obviously Sora he's led pretty much most of this race apart from when he spun. And let's just say that he has been in control of this race for a long time in this now, and obviously we're seeing the gaps. This is very much what happens when you don't really have a race, a very low number turnout for a race, and you end up with numbers, just sort of no real safety cars to really bring people back together. Obviously it's been a pretty standard strategy for most people. Obviously we know that Shut Metal has not made his strategy really work in terms of that, but I believe finally he's managed to clear the laggy Ferrari, as it looks like he's finally into the pits though as soon as he clears him. So unfortunately, I believe he's probably going to go back onto a set of medium compound tyres if he has a set of medium compound tyres left if he chose that allocation. Depends on that, or he could go for a set of softs, but I think that's a bit too soon. Nope, it is another set of mediums for the Alfa Romeo driver. Not the most ideal strategy for him, but really Sora has had this race under control, and apart from the spin, I mean, he managed to recompose himself very, very well, did the Mercedes driver. He's managed to get himself back into the frame of mind of, alright, okay, I made the mistake, let's just get back on track, and let's get back to the lead. And he did that within about, I believe, 3 or 4 laps of it actually happening. So obviously, or maybe he just wanted to make his race more interesting, but I suspect it's probably because he just made a mistake on the curbs in the middle sector, because the curbs in this game, some of them are evil, in terms of they will just take your car and just spin your car off into a random direction. It's the same with the grip layout really on this game sometimes. You'll have grip in corners sometimes, and then sometimes you won't. As there goes Angelo with a time penalty now, so now down to just the top 3 with no penalties. As that Tom Gorian is indeed gaining on Angelo, and Tom Gorian's now going to have to deal with the laggy car of Angelo. Let's just say that much, as Sora is just gaining time hand over fist on Scott. Scott really doesn't have much of an answer at the moment. Obviously we know that Scott picked a lap later as well, so Vapid obviously in the oldest tyres of the 3, he's in 11 lap old tyres, he's 3.8 seconds, I believe, 3.8 seconds behind Scott. I believe he is about 12.8 behind the leader, and I don't really think he's gaining at the moment. Obviously you can see the gaps at the moment, they're really all huge gaps, apart from the gap between So Fresh and Checo at the moment. Checo and Senna rather. And Senna looks like he's still trying to keep himself close, but he's still not been able to make anything stick at the moment. Senna looking to try and make the move here on the back of Checo. Obviously we know that Senna has more penalties than what Checo does, so it's going to be very important for... Actually, Checo doesn't really have to worry too much about it. He does seem to just have enough pace in hand. Give himself ahead. Obviously we know Checo doesn't really know what ERS saving is. He just kind of uses it whenever he has it. As Senna, there's another goal, good line run over the curbs there. You do need to be careful that you run over those curbs though, because the curbs sometimes will give you warnings for doing that. As XCR Senna looks to switch back to the inside. Is he going to make the move down the inside? And it looks like it's a wide moment for Checo. Checo looks like he tries to keep his car there, but he's not managed it. He's now stuck behind XCR Senna once again. Knowing the fact though, Checo though, I say this, he's managed to save a fair bit of battery, which I can very much, it's a surprise seeing that full of bar of ERS for Checo, so I wonder what he's actually up to here. Very curious to know what exactly the strategy here with Checo actually is. Obviously we know he's pitted now, so he's back down to what is P9 obviously. Checo looks like he is struggling though to keep himself just within range, however he has done it. He's still within about 7/10, so he can still gain the ground using the ERS. It's a little bit wide from Senna in front. So it looks like he's going to try and get himself as close as possible. He can now burn a lot of the CRS deployment to get himself as close as possible. However, he's not really feeling the need to do so. The Mexican at the moment will now move himself back into P8. These two just swapping positions every single time. Senna looking like he will drop back once again, who's on completely the opposite end of the spectrum in terms of ERS deployment, and I haven't seen a flashing light on that Aston Martin. You won't see it for a while, considering how much battery deployment Checo actually has. He probably will use his battery here. However, he does have the DRS, because I believe that is a 2 DRS detection, 1 DRS detection for 2 zones. So if you get the DRS detection for that one, you get the DRS detection for the other zone as well. So, looks like Tom Gordon, meanwhile, while we're watching this battle, is trying to catch up to the back of Angelo Simone. Now, he will have the fun of facing up to what is Angelo's very laggy car. Hopefully, it's sorted itself out by now, but I don't think that's going to have happened anytime soon. Because Angelo's been having some connection troubles. That's the thing with, as I say, dedicated servers. Very close for Senna there. That probably will be a corner cut, because that is all 4 wheels off track. Senna's still trying to get past. However, Checo isn't really having any of it. He's still saving ERS. He's probably going to burn a lot of this down the straights, because he can probably afford to do this and then save again. He's got just enough on straight line speed. He probably believes he's actually got just enough on XCR Senna here. XCR Senna, that's a little wide, he comes at the corner, and now Checo, he's going to be up to 100% pretty soon. That's quite a thing. I mean, I do take back what I say, Checo. You've actually got quite a... Well, actually, when you want to, you can actually save quite a bit of battery. Maybe it's just a lot. There we go. Just use a little bit there to get himself ahead of XCR Senna, and XCR Senna's not been able to really do anything at the moment, and is currently stuck in that zone where you're probably just getting a lot of dirty air, really, off the car in front, and it's probably not helping the front end aero in that car. However, we're going to go back to Tom Gorian, who's probably currently dealing with, I think it's cleared up a little bit, has the lag on Angelo's car. Tom Gorian, meanwhile, the same amount of ERS as what Angelo does, trying to make the move, but he's about 9/10 of a second back, trying to potentially make the move stick on the back of Angelo. He's not going to get close enough quite yet, though. Well, then we're going to go back to XCR Senna, as Checo's now picked up by net another penalty, so I believe he's on 6 seconds now. As Senna will be trying to once again make the move, but the low ERS deployment isn't really going to be helping the Mercedes driver all that much. Senna looks like he's trying to make the move stick. Nope, it's very wide as he comes out the corner, and now Checo can burn a lot of his ERS deployment to get himself away again. Checo is just very comfortable here. He doesn't really have to worry about it. It looks like, meanwhile, Tom Gorian is keep putting the pressure onto Angelo, and Angelo's lack of pace is really showing now. I think finally the issues have sorted themselves out. Shot Medal, meanwhile, is back in P7 at the moment after his pit stop, and is gaining ground on the back of Kirby, obviously on fresh medium compound tyres. You're going to have to see how far up the order he can actually get himself, as it's 29 laps of 36, with Sora 12.2 seconds nearly ahead of Scott. It's going to be a dominant victory. I believe one of the most dominant victories of the season for Sora, if he can make that last to the end, as Angelo Simone on a low deployment as well. Here comes Tom Gorian, the RS, he's going to use all of it to try and get past. They're on the same compounded tyre. 16 laps for Tom Gorian, 12 laps for Angelo. Angelo, meanwhile, can he come back at the Alpine driver? It's going to be very close to see if he can actually do so. Angelo looks like he tries to get himself as close as possible once again to the back of the Alpine driver. As there's a little bit, whoop, nope, there's the connection deciding to play haywire with Angelo once again. I don't know if he's seeing this on his screen or if everyone else is lagging for him. But there we go as we head through. Tom Gorian is up to P4, 5.7 seconds to the next car. Can he gain ground and get himself up into the podium? Get himself, finally get a podium after a couple of weeks of showing the pace for podiums and even wins, and not really being able to show, having nothing to really show for it with a DNF and a very lowly points finish at Suzuka last week. So now that is that done and dusted. So we go back to the battle with XCR Senna and Checo. Checo still keeping himself just ahead, and Checo is really the Mexican driver is keeping the Mercedes driver at bay for the time being. Let's just say that much. Checo, obviously we know that spin was not really the most helpful for Checo near the beginning of the race. He's 31 seconds behind the next car. Obviously this constant nagging Mercedes behind him is not going to be helping him in the slightest. And knowing the fact that Senna is still just about keeping tabs with him. It's really helping him out as Angelo's as he's fell back out of range now. It looks like Shot Metal. In the meantime, as we're going to go back to that just now, where is Shot Metal? He's obviously in turn 2. They're in the complex of the first few corners, and Shot Metal try to get himself as close as possible, but he's not going to be close enough to make a move. Now it goes back to Senna and Checo, the Mexican driver. He's on 100%. Does he have some kind of issue with ERS here? Because this is unusual for Checo not to be using ERS here. This is very much a strategy here. However, now he's using the ERS. He's got a lot of battery to dump here. Is Senna going to try and send it down the inside? Nope, he's too far back for the Mercedes driver to really make a move. Checo now using a little bit of the battery, and really he's obviously not knowing the fact that he's not going to catch up in front. So really, it's all about there. This is a little bit wide there from Checo. Onto the grass, need to be careful doing that, not to get dirty tyres from that, and obviously add more weight on as So Fresh is into the pits, probably for the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. That's what I would think on that front. Obviously knowing he's already pretty much done in this race, he does have 10th place in the bag. No one's going to be able to beat him, as indeed that is going to be the case as we go back to Shot Metal just in time, as I think the move is going to be made here on Kirby. Kirby's to go side by side, the Alfa Romeo driver versus the Alpine. The Alfa Romeo driver gets the advantage in the end. No ERS though for Shot Metal. However, I don't think that's really going to matter, as Kirby doesn't really seem to have the same level of grip as what Shot Metal does, and Shot Metal's now away off 7.9 seconds up to Angelismo. Now can he catch up to Angelo? Obviously we know that Shot Metal may well have some concerns with Angelo's connection after seeing what happened earlier on, but it's going to be very interesting to see. However, looking at the gap, it looks like Tom Gorian is gaining ground in the meantime to the back of Vapid. It's 5 seconds in closing. It's just under 5 seconds now. He's taken time out of him. I think there's been a mistake from Vapid somewhere. Let's see if anything's happened to the driver, the Mercedes, the Williams driver here. Nope, does not look like there has been. He hasn't lost any, but I think there's been a mistake somewhere, because I think there's a 4/10th gain for Tom Gorian at that point in time, so it doesn't look like that gap wants to move for some reason. That's a bit weird. I'm not sure if my connection is currently just playing a little bit of silly buggers with me. Nope, it's just changed again. It's just sometimes it does that. Meanwhile, this battle still ensues. At the back, it looks like Senna still struggling to overtake Checo. Checo with enough battery. This is complete opposite of Checo usually. Checo normally doesn't have much battery in deposit at all, which is normally the other way around. It's like, very curious to know how he's saving so much battery. He's just kind of deploying it on the straights. He's kind of got 35 seconds. He's not really gaining any ground on Kirby in front, so he really doesn't have to worry about the car behind or the car in front. He just has to worry about defending. And when you just have that, if you have enough battery to deploy, then you're all good to just use it down the straights. However, it's going to be close once again for Senna. However, Senna's not going to be able to get himself close enough. Obviously, Senna on 2 lap older tyres isn't really going to be helped by the fact of that. Oh, that's another time penalised. 12 seconds now, I believe, for Senna. That's unfortunate there. Going back to further up, Tom Gorian is still gaining ground. He's still trying to get himself as close as he possibly can. Tom Gorian he's a man on a mission at the moment, but at what point? He's 1 lap older on tyres. We got 4 laps left of this Mexican Grand Prix race. Is he going to be able to get close enough? He's gaining ground now, but the thing is the gains are probably minimal now for the Alpine driver. He's going to get himself up to P4. 4 seconds is the gap between himself. It's going to be under 3 if he can get it close now. Obviously, knowing the fact that he's using the ERS now, as Angelo is now fell out of range from him behind. Vapid's going to be looking in the mirror fairly soon, and knowing the fact that the Alpine driver behind it is going to get closer and closer in that mirror, in those mirrors, and he's going to have to start thinking about maybe saving a bit of battery soon. Vapid though is having to respond at points to the resurgence of Tom Gorian. Obviously we know that Tom Gorian had a little bit of a spin in the sprint race, which did not help his case. Obviously him and Shot Metal did also struggle. I believe Shot Metal's Tom Gorian, that's a time penalty for him now. That's yet another one. I believe that's 6 seconds. So unfortunate there for him. Angelo, I believe, is only on 3. So if Angelo can keep himself within 3 seconds now of the car in front, the Alpine, then he should be good. Obviously, knowing that as Vapid though is struggling, he doesn't seem to have the same amount of pace as what Scott does in front, and then Scott is also, it's about 20 seconds of a gap now, nearly 18, actually 18 seconds of a gap now to Sora. Sora has just controlled this race, he even spun, and he's still come back. He obviously, you can see Vapid, you can see that Alpine just in the background of the straight, shot Medal into the pits, obviously knowing the fact that he's into the pits for what I suspect, as I said, as Senna I believe has spun somewhere around. I believe he's obviously letting cars go through, obviously, as I believe that is shot Medal into the pits for the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Sora meanwhile is going through two lap cars. I believe that is Checo and XCR Senna. I believe Senna's had a little bit of an issue there with something happening. I believe he's had an issue with the curbs, which have cost him a little bit of time, but he is gaining ground back as Checo now with another time penalty. I believe that's about 9 seconds for Checo. At this point, here's Sora. Sora's he's got 2 laps to go, and he's just doing a Sunday drive on a Saturday. That's literally all he's doing. He just doesn't have part of the one mistake in the race he's made. Sora, I think, might finally, although I think that Checo was thinking about making his life awkward, but he's decided not to. So fair play to Checo there for not doing that. As 3 seconds is the gap now between Tom Gorian and Vapid as these two look to get. Tom Gorian wants to get himself as close as possible, but I think he's going to run out of laps here. As Tom Gorian is 3 seconds, he's going to get it under 3 seconds. He's really hoping now that Vapid does pick up a time penalty. However, we don't know that if Vapid's going to be close to a penalty. As such as Tom Gorian, the ERS, there's not much there. As Vapid though is probably going to be responding at points. There's not much really between the two drivers in ERS. Obviously, Vapid staying away from the track limits, so really he's just making sure he doesn't get in trouble at all. Here is the the Williams driver as XCR Senna. That's 18 seconds of penalties now. He's really struggling to keep himself within that range of the actual track limits now. 18 seconds. It's very easy to do around here to pick up multiple penalties once you lose track of your actual rhythm. It's very easy just to do it corner after corner. 2.8 seconds the gap between Tom Gorian and Vapid. Tom Gorian trying to gain ground as fast as he possibly can. As Angelo's now picked up another time penalty, so it's 6 seconds. Now Tom Gorian's now safe for P4. Obviously we know Tom Gorian's got 6 seconds of penalties himself, as it looks like XCR Senna's into the pits for what will be the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. As 2.5 seconds is the gap, he's gaining ground at a rate. Obviously 1 lap older tyres, obviously at this point those hard tyres being very, very durable. As here Tom Gorian 2.5, he's gaining, but it's very marginal gains now as we're on to the final lap of the Grand Prix. As TMS Sora, a glory lap here for TMS Sora. He really has just held on for all that is actually worth in this race. Obviously with that spin did not help his case. However, he has never looked back since. He changed his mindset and he's pretty much just walked away with this race, made the moves very easily. People obviously knew of his pace, and finally I believe he's going to get all 3. He's going to get the pole position, he's going to get the sprint race victory, and he's going to take the feature race victory as well here in Mexico. TMS Sora wins. Scott in second place did not seem to have the pace of the Mercedes today, but it is good points for him versus Vapid. However, Vapid is going to finish in the place just behind him. Obviously, knowing the fact 9.2 seconds didn't quite manage to break the 9.5 gap for Scott, but that's not really going to bother Scott as he comes home in P2. P3 in the last of the finishers without penalties is going to be Vapid. Those 3 the only ones to go the whole race without picking up paint time penalties, as Tom Gorian 1.8 seconds he got it down to. However, those 6 seconds of penalties he's going to drop back to those, and it will be Angelo in P5. Kirby is going to bring it home in P6. Good double points finish for the 2 Alpines, 4th and 6th. Shot Medal in P7 is going to come home in P7 with, I believe it's Sofra. I believe that is Sofra. She's currently down in P10 at the moment. I believe he's just lost some more time there with a spin there or something else of the nature. Shot Medal, that 2-stop strategy didn't really work for him. It's going to be P7. He's not really the most happy with that race, deciding to break off part of his front wing. But that is going to be your run for the Grand Prix. A few other runners that were also in there, but driver of the day is going to go to Tom Gorian. And obviously, I'd be tempted to go for Tom Gordon as driver of the day because he's shown that he had the incident early on, but his pace to bring himself back, obviously, without that, I believe he would have been on the podium. So we're going to give top driver of the day to Tom Gordon. But TMS Sora takes all three. Pole position, 3 points in the sprint, and the max points in the main feature race. This is race of champagne once again. 2 lots of champagne today for him. Got to be careful with that, driving back to the hotel. As it will be second for Scott and third for Vapid. So, your results for the feature race: it is TMS Sora who dominates and takes victory here in Mexico. Scott finishes in P2 with Vapid in P3. Tom Gordon finished in P4, the first of the people with penalties. Angelo P5, not the best day for Angelo, obviously P2 in the grid, but obviously he was not the most confident going into this with his pace, so really probably a good drive overall to finish in P5 for the Ferrari man. P6 for Kirby and the Alpine, the second the Alpine's good points overall for them. Shot Medal, that 2-stop strategy did not really work out for him, it says 3, but he went for obviously that extra top right at the end there. Checo obviously in 8th, the Mexican driver finishes in P8, not the best result for him, but he should still be alright with those points. XR7 and P9. So Fresh, the final finisher in P10 with fins and spin. Your DNFs for the race. And that is going to round up the stream for this weekend. Obviously, for Mexico, we move on to next Hungary round number 17 will be the next venue we head to on this 23 race calendar. We are heading towards the end of the season now very, very quickly. Some great tracks coming up in the coming up races, but that is going to be it for the race weekend this time around. Hopefully you join me. Cal will be back in the commentary box with myself next week, but until Hungary next week, we hope you enjoyed watching, and goodbye.